Okay, and I think we're live. Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. For those new here, my name is Nikki. I'm an author and editor and I post videos here on YouTube about writing, editing, reading and all the other things I love, and it's the latter we're here for today because it is the final day of the month and it's time for me to wrap up just a bit of a description of what I've been watching in terms of TV, film and theatre when theatre's happening for the month. So let me get rid of this banner because it's annoying me now. Okay, so kicking us off, I haven't been to the theatre again this month, and that's not because they're open. Here in Australia they are going. In fact, at the moment we have our annual Fringe Festival on, hundreds of acts over the course of about 4 weeks. The only difference this year is there is some social distancing, so venue numbers are halved to what they would normally be, but otherwise everything's continuing as usual. I did have a quick look through the programme. As I said, there's something like 500 acts or something, but it tends to focus a lot on comedy and circus and things, and none of them this year particularly appealed to me. So I didn't rush to book anything. I think I might save my money for the Cabaret Festival in June and hopefully see something then. So no theatre, at least not live theatre. I'll come back to theatre a little bit at the end of this stream when I talk about some stuff I've been watching on YouTube. But to kick us off, I'm going to talk about what I've been watching on Netflix. In some ways, it feels like a slightly slow month. I haven't got that many to go through. I've just been very busy, and by the time I get home from work, cook dinner, I've generally only had time for 2 or 3 episodes of things. And since some of the Korean dramas go for over an hour per episode, for 16 to 20 episodes, it takes me a little while to get through them. So kicking us off, though, all 4 I'm going to mention from Netflix this month are Korean dramas. And the first of those was Coffee Prince. So this is a fairly old one. I mean, it's more than 10 years, coming up for 15 years old. And it's one of those that's considered a bit of a classic, I think, so I figured I should watch it. The premise sounded really fun. It was about a guy who, in order to escape the blind dates his family's members want to send him off on, he hires a young man to pretend to be his gay lover. What he doesn't realise, though, is that the man is actually a woman. So it's a case of mistaken identity in many ways. And this main girl, she has a bit of a tomboy aspect about her, and she's happy to play along with being considered a guy, especially when it gets her a job at our main male character's new coffee shop, which is only hiring men. As you might expect, there's romance along the way, and it starts off with the main guy starting to fall for this girl, but thinking it's a guy, and having a bit of angst over whether he's gay and various things. I found this story really enjoyable to begin with. I did kind of lose a little bit of interest once her identity had been revealed. I kind of felt that aspect was the great fun of the show. And once that had been resolved, they were just basically resolving issues with his family and his future plans and her future plans. And it kind of lost a bit of its impact for me at that point. But look, it's a show filled with good-looking actors. It's amusing. There's plenty of comedy, a bit of drama as usual from these shows, a little bit emotional at times too. So if that sounds like your sort of thing, check it out. As I said, it was a mixed one for me. I didn't dislike it, but I just felt it went on a little bit longer than it needed to in terms of episode numbers. Next up, another one is The Master's Son. This one is it's set in contemporary period, and it's about a young woman who can see ghosts, and she has trouble because they tend to chase her around, trying to get her to do things for them. And she finds some of them rather scary. But then one day she meets this sort of corporate heir, if you like. He runs a shopping mall, and he doesn't believe in ghosts or anything like this, but she discovers that when she touches him, the ghosts vanish. So she treats him as a bit of a safe harbour and wants to stick by his side, and he wants nothing more than to get rid of her initially. However, he is being haunted himself by the ghost of his first love, who died tragically. There's a bit more background story to that you discover through the series. But when he finds out she can speak to ghosts, he decides he does want to keep her around because he wants to be able to communicate with the ghost of this young woman who died, because he's got things he wants to find out from her. So again, there's plenty of humorous moments, but also a lot of emotion. My husband kept shaking his head at me because I was in tears at some point in nearly every episode, as they sort of dealt with some of the problems the ghosts were having and fixed their like unresolved issues and things so they could leave. I think this was really great. It's one I could see myself watching again in the future as a rewatch, because I did really enjoy it. And next up, sticking with the sort of slight supernatural theme in a way, but moving us back to the Joseon era for a historical series, Moon Embracing the Sun. Now, this was a fairly long series. I think it's about 20 episodes, yes. The first 4 episodes or so, it took me a little while to get into it. And it kind of turned around for me once the actors became older, because the series started off with the characters meeting when they're really very young teenagers, about 13 to 15. And I thought it was okay, but I wasn't really into it. However, when the action jumped several years later and they're now in their 20s and they're played by adults, and some of them actors that I knew from other series and things as well at this point. And at that point, I decided I kind of got into it a little bit more. And I think part of that was actors I like had appeared. And part of it was because as they were now older, there was a little bit more depth to the relationships and the things going on. And they had a bit more agency as well, I think, once they were older. The premise of this one, I'm going to try and say it without giving too many spoilers away, is a young girl ends up meeting, by chance, the Crown Prince. She is the daughter of someone in court. She's not a peasant or anything, but she meets him at first not knowing who he is. The two of them fall in love, and eventually she goes through the selection process and becomes chosen to be his bride and become the future queen, the Crown Princess. However, because of machinations going on politically in the background at the court, they want to get rid of her and put another girl in her place. And at this point, it looks like she's died, but through a various series of events, she hasn't, but she's lost her memories. And later on, when we come back as adults, we have these two characters, the Crown Prince, who's now king, and this girl with no knowledge of her past meeting again. And there's also a bit of a love triangle involved with the king's stepbrother, who is also in love with the same girl. So I won't say more than that, because I don't want to spoiler it too much, but that's the basic premise of the story. As I said, it took me a little while to get into it, but once I did, I found it really enjoyable. Yong was my favourite character, the king's stepbrother. I can't say too much more about him without spoilers, but I really enjoyed his part in it. So definitely, I recommend this one. It's got a slight supernatural edge to it. There's a little bit of talk of shamanism and killing people with black magic and things like that. But essentially, for the most part, it's a historical romance drama. So if that sounds like your sort of thing, do check it out. I think it has left Netflix now, but you'll find it around the place, I'm sure. And the final one I watched for the month, which was my favourite as well, is Flower of Evil. This is a new one on Netflix. It's just come on this year. And the premise of this story is there's a guy, he's got a slightly shady past, the true extent of which we gradually find out during the series. But from the start, we discover that he is actually concealing his original identity. He's changed his name. He's been brought in for reasons we later discover into this family who are passing him off as their son. And in the meantime, he's met a woman, falling in love with her, and they've gotten married. And she's a detective. She's in the police. So a series of murders take place, and she begins to investigate them. And at this point, elements of her husband's past start to come to light, which he's desperately trying to conceal. I won't say too much more than that because I don't want to spoiler it. But I really enjoyed this one. I thought the characters were brilliant, especially the main guy. I loved him. And I loved it enough. I went out and bought the DVD after I finished watching it because I'd like to watch it again because it was so good. So if it sounds like your sort of thing, it's contemporary drama, crime investigation, a bit of a thriller aspect, then definitely check out Flower of Evil. So that was all I watched on Netflix for this month. Other than that, I have been on YouTube a fair bit watching various bits of Korean musicals and things. Quite a lot of the Korean musicals have press events when they put on, if not the entire show, they put on at least the key musical numbers for the press, and these get recorded and broadcast. So quite a few of those are on YouTube. I've been watching some of them recently. One of the ones I watched that I particularly enjoyed was it's like a sort of studio run through, a Sitzprobe, I guess, if you like, of Dracula, the Frank Wildhorn version. And I really fell in love with one of the singers, Jean Donsok, who I've been searching on YouTube since over the last few weeks. So I've been watching a few of his things after listening to him sing Fresh Blood in Dracula, which was so great. I've also been watching bits from the Korean version of Rebecca, the musical. What other ones? Notre Dame de Paris Korean version as well. And the Korean Jekyll and Hyde by Frank Wildhorn as well. So I've still got a few others that I want to watch soon, so I'll probably mention a couple more of them at the end of March. But that is the wrap-up pretty much for what I've been watching film and TV-wise during February. So I will end there, but I'll be back in, say, 10-15 minutes when I will do my reading wrap-up for the end of the month as well. So I hope you'll join me again then. Bye for now, everyone.